Dead Scared Entertainment takes pleasure in presenting Verda Darano, a journey into the phantasmagoric lands of folklore, literature, theater, and film. In the centuries-old tradition of the Romani people, we bring to you stories of superstition, fantasy, and adventure. There's no turning back. The Verda approaches.
Latchi Ratyi Miro Amal. Good evening, friend. I'm Esma Kalai. I'm so glad you've decided to join me on this journey. It's always a pleasure when there's company on my caravan. If you're all settled in, we'll head for our destination. We're going to the heart of downtown Chicago, to a building nestled among the many high-rises and spectacles. Hard to believe that horror and thrills can reside among the steel and concrete, no? But Amal, that's just it. Tonight we visit a non-believer, a man of logic. Although creative in his own rights, Carlos Medina of Done by Design doesn't allow his imagination to get the best of him. Spooked and specters? Ha! Not for him. Yet, as you'll hear, he doesn't deny the unexplainable. What manner of the unknowns do we speak of? Of Mansa. Come with me. Back to a crisp Chicago October, high above the bustling streets to a dimly lit office space. Let's see if we can turn you into a believer tonight.
Latchi Ratyi, Dead Scared Entertainment. Thank you for joining us yet again on another journey to the fathoms of the unknown with us on Verda Darano. Tonight we have with us Carlos Medina, co-founder of Done by Design, and today we are going to be talking about his experiences in the esoteric and the unknown. So sit back, relax, ready your nerves, because here we go. So how are you doing today, Carlos?
I'm kind of freaked out now after hearing this intro. What am I stepping? What did I get myself into?
That's how a lot of people feel. But don't worry, we'll hold your hand throughout the whole process.
Thank you.
Just close your eyes, and if you hear a scream, it's probably her. So,
All right, let's get this thing started.
yes.
Let's do it.
Yeah? All right, Carlos. So, where are you from? Where did you grow up? And what do you do for a living?
So I grew up on what was it, Gage Park, the Gage Park area.
Mhm.
So I was actually there until I was about 9, 10 years old, and moved over to Cicero, and I grew up there. So did you want to know like my heritage?
Yeah, all of it.
All the good stuff.
Yeah, all the good stuff.
All
Yeah.
right. Okay. So both my parents are from Mexico, so I'm first generation here. Probably why we moved to Cicero. That's why we're all there.
Makes sense.
The stories that I'm going to tell you about are from the Gage Park area, but we'll get back into that in a second. Currently, right now, I am the co-owner of Done by Design. But yeah, we work really well together. We're trying to create a really unique environment for a lot of the models we work with. I know it's pretty rough out there in terms of people not having the best intentions. So, being that we're here and we're a little older, we try to create a really safe environment for all the models that are coming in. I think that really separated us from a lot of the other businesses out there. So there's been times here where we're the only two guys here, and people are just comfortable here. So we want to make sure we continue growing on that, building on that, and creating a safe environment so we all can create awesome stuff.
Oh, that's amazing. And that's good to hear because usually I'm the chauffeur driving this one around to all the modeling events
Yeah.
that she's involved in, whether it be here or wherever it may be. So knowing that you're creating a safe space within the modeling industry is very comforting because it's true.
Yeah.
This is so much has come to light as of recent,
Mhm.
just in the creative industry in general. And it's time that we get super professional. I'm glad to hear that we've got two individuals that are down to do the right kind of business.
I don't know if
Absolutely.
Ray's a professional, but
That's the title. But yeah, no, it's one of the things that I noticed was there's photographers and then there's dudes with cameras, right? And some of these people, they use the camera as a license to be able to I don't know, manipulate people that are new to the industry. So a lot of the people that we're working with are new, and it's just something that I'm very proud of. If one of the models comes up and tells us, "Hey, there was this photographer that made me feel uncomfortable," so one of the duties that I have is I'm the media director. So when Ray takes care of the backstage in terms of directing the show, I'll make sure that the lighting's correct, but more importantly, who are the photographers? So I'll do the invitation, and if someone gets a bad rep or a model tells us that they were inappropriate in any kind of way, we just don't invite them anymore.
I love that. Thank
Great
you.
policy.
Yeah, it's important.
That's awesome. Well, I'm glad to hear that. So, in terms of the creative work that you do,
Mhm.
because as we're talking, you mentioned that you're a photographer and you understand like what it is to be a photographer. What type of, obviously, you work with models, but what do you enjoy photographing in terms of like subject wise?
Oh, people.
Just people.
I love one of my favorite things to do, and it's weird, right? Now I do this for a living now, but I haven't had a chance to just go out with my camera, walk, and do some street photography. I love watching people in candid moments. Some of my favorite pictures that I've taken have been, just going out and about. A couple of these photographs I took, I mean, it's not of people, but
These are amazing photographs that are behind us, folks.
oh, thank you.
I thought those were like bought somewhere. Like those are awesome. Wow.
No, that was me. That was me. I actually took a friend out and I was teaching him how to use his camera, and the theme was we were going to use reflections. And he's like, reflections. I'm like, dude, there's reflections everywhere. And it's just kind of teaching someone how to see, basically, right?
True.
So you're looking for lighting, reflections, things of that nature. So
That's awesome. No, I love that.
it's the details. It's all in the details.
Mm-hmm. See, I love this creative talk. This is my bread and butter. This is what I love to talk about all the time.
Well, we have an open door policy. I mean, there's typically creatives coming in left and right, and that's why we sometimes don't get any work done because we're here talking about stuff that we want to do.
Oh.
You know how that goes.
I know
Yeah.
how that goes.
Yeah.
Believe me, relatable.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so would you say like growing up,
Mhm.
you would say that you spent a good amount of time with a camera or just like being creative in general? Like what was like your childhood sort of like when it came to being a creative?
Well, my father's an artist, right? So I grew up. He would draw. I mean, he had pictures of the female body in the living room. So like, I grew up, and my cousins would like bring out like a Playboy magazine. And they're like, "Oh, movies." And I'm like,
Yeah.
it wasn't that big of a deal for me. I mean, like they're everywhere for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my dad actually, he actually went back to school because he wanted to learn how to airbrush. This was like
Smart.
in '92, so I was about 12 years old when he learned, and he's awesome. Like he's phenomenal. Well, one of his paintings actually came out in the Last Dance, the documentary for the Bulls.
Wow.
There's a photograph or a painting of Michael Jordan opening up his warm up, and there's a Superman logo, and me and my friend at the time were the ones holding it up, right? So they
I've
came
seen
out
this.
so
Oh
that
my
was his painting.
gosh.
Yeah, it's in his basement. Like,
I
he
love
just
it.
has it hanging in his basement. But so he taught me how to airbrush. So by the time I got to high school, that's how I made my money. I was airbrushing t-shirts. So during that time, it was like
Nice.
Tweety Bird, and Taz, and what was it, Love Is characters, the Precious Moment characters.
Oh yeah.
Like, so I was just putting names, like Maria and Jose forever. stuff like that. So I made my money doing that throughout high school. So it was always just I always had the ability to draw right from him.
Hmm.
When I decided to go into photography, in all honesty, it was just an easy class. I didn't want to take English or whatever. So I took photography and I loved it. I actually loved the smell of the chemicals, right? Like,
Yeah.
so it kind of went there. So then I went into graphic design because that was when like Photoshop started launching, and that was kind of cool. So I went to
Nice.
college for that.
Smart.
Yeah. So, and then I ended up in sales in corporate America, and it kind of all went to shit. It all went down the drain.
That's how it
It
all
all
happens.
went to shit.
It
It all
always
went
kind
to
of like
shit.
goes back and forth for all of us. That sounds pretty similar to me. Grew up drawing,
Yeah.
took some classes in high school, went even further than that, then ended up in sales.
Yeah. I mean, you got to pay the bills, right?
Exactly.
So
That's how it goes. No, that's awesome. And I'm surprised, like, first off, what's your father's name? Because I would love to maybe have like some of our listeners go and check out his stuff. It's probably online somewhere. For
Yeah.
Sure.
He has the same name. I'm a junior, so he's Carlos Medina.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
All right then.
the OG.
The OG. So check out the OG and his work online, probably somewhere. Does he have like a website, or is he still doing that? And still
Yeah, he's
working?
he has his work on Instagram.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so
He's hip.
It's Carlos Medina. Yeah. Yeah, if you guys follow me at Carlos underscore done by design, you could find him. He actually has a picture of the. Oh my god, you guys are gonna kill me. The Metallica fans are gonna kill me. I forgot his name. The lead singer.
Oh, wow. Look how I'm blanking too. We're terrible.
I'm taking you guys all with me.
Perfect. Perfect.
Well, there was a picture of him in the Rolling Stone magazine where he was like drenched with water, and my dad made a painting of him. So it's him, and behind him is that painting, so you can see the water. It's in black and white. It's beautiful. So
Wow.
he's really good.
So basically, at this point, this became a huge conversation about art. I
Right.
love it already. Awesome. Awesome. So, I mean, more or less growing up, we all kind of slowly but surely, I guarantee at some point, tell me if I'm wrong,
Mm.
but if you grew up like drawing like Taz and Tweety Bird and like airbrushing them, you probably grew up with like comic books and loving like movies that were coming out towards the 90s and such, right? Like in that sort of vibe.
Well, yeah, of course. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, I wasn't a fan of Tweety Bird and all this. I mean,
Of
they were
course,
they were
yeah,
just
yeah.
paying the bills, or
Well,
I
of
didn't have
course.
bills, but I was making money.
Of course.
So I learned how to draw them. So now, like even when I sketch now, sometimes I'll do a precious moments,
Nice.
just out of like I still can't believe I remember how to do it. But I'm like I'll draw it. I'm like, oh shit,
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
muscle memory.
it is.
I
It's so
get
weird.
you. Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, because more or less, I'll say this: how I grew up was I was constantly watching a lot of like obviously like Batman. That's my favorite superhero. But then a lot of what I grew up drawing was like the classic Universal monsters.
Okay.
Because towards the 90s, right about that time, they had like this huge marketing ploy where they were like churning out VHS after VHS. And me like going in Walmart, I was like, I gotta get this one and I gotta get this one. So I started collecting them. So like would you say like growing up, what was like the type of like what was the type of stuff that you really like gravitated towards, like movie wise or media wise?
So media wise, I grew up playing basketball, right? So
Gotcha.
during the '90s, Michael Jordan was my idol. So I had Jordan everywhere, right? The Jordan and the Bulls.
Nice.
So right around that time, and one came out. So the and one mixtape. I don't know if you remember the and one character. He was a
Yeah.
basketball player without the face.
Mm-hmm.
So I would take basketball cards or pictures of basketball players and turn them into and one characters for myself. Like that's
Nice.
the drawings that I used to come up with. So and then and one came up with a mixtape. So I was fascinated of how they would make it like a documentary style, and they were exposing you to like another form of basketball that you hadn't seen, street ball. You know, I just didn't know what it was, right? I didn't know what they were doing. Like the whole documentary part of it, it still blows me away. Just because now that I know how it's done, it's so much work. It's like
Right.
so you have an appreciation of them being able to comprise, hundreds of hours worth of footage and put it into an hour's worth of video or documentary. But yeah, ever since I was young, I would gravitate to documentaries.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Huh. So would you say this like in terms of the type of things that since you gravitated towards documentaries, would you say like growing up you were very much like the nonfiction type of person? You weren't really into like the fantasy worlds that were being created at the time.
No, not as much. And then a lot of it had to do with the fact that, um, not that we grew up poor, because that's a bad representation, but like we would only get things on Christmas and your birthday. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't like, oh hey dad, I want this new game that just came out. It's like, all right, your birthday's in 6 months. You're like, all right. So you would get a
Yeah.
video game every 6 months, right? So in terms of me getting like comic books or stuff like that, it was like, okay, well I have $1 or two. Let me go buy some basketball cards.
There you go.
Like we were limited on what we could entertain ourselves with.
Gotcha.
Like I had NBA Jam and I played it for a year until I got another game.
There you go.
Now like when kids are like, oh, I'm bored of this game. I'm like, dude, you just got it. Now you got to spend another $50-$60. I'm like, back in my day, you had to wait till your birthday.
Nah, I remember that.
I relate
honestly.
to
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, we both had a very similar experience growing up too. I'll say I wasn't much of a gamer, but I will say when there was a couple good games that came out on Xbox, when that was the big thing.
Mhm.
Oh my god, cried and cried for these. Mind you, they were like at the time they were like $40-$50. Now it's like just to download something it's like about 60-70 now, nah?
Yeah,
Something like that. Are you still a gamer?
not as much. I don't have time. I like FIFA. I'll play FIFA.
There you
Me
go.
and my buddy will, he'll come over. It's funny because I live alone, but he's married.
Yeah.
And then he'll come over and play FIFA. And his wife
Nice.
is like, she gets mad. I was like, we could be out at a bar.
True.
You know what I mean? Like we're here like playing video games.
True.
It's not much. Usually we keep that as our little secret, but here I am telling the world that we're playing video games. You're 40-year-old men playing FIFA and like cussing at each other.
You scandalous boys.
But yeah, no, I have 2 boys now, and they both have their PS5, so they're constantly asking for video games, and I'm like, dude, there's no way I'm spending that much money on a game. You don't even get a CD anymore.
That's true. I
You're
don't know what
you're
happened.
downloading a file. How much is it? They're getting like 100% profit off of this stuff.
Truly, it's crazy because that was like one of the things. Like, and I was kind of going back to what I was mentioning earlier. It was just like the joy of even just going to like rent something at Blockbuster or
Yeah.
Hollywood Video. Just the fact that it's back in. If you didn't catch it that
Right.
one time around, just
Yeah.
having like that physical media.
Right,
I miss that.
putting it
honestly.
in. Yeah,
I miss
yeah,
that
me
stuff.
too.
Ah.
You get a game for 2 days, and you're like, all right, it's worth buying or not.
It's true. And the funny thing is, these kids today, like I noticed, they're binging their games just as much as we like binge like seasons of like stuff where we binge movies or marathons and
Mhm.
stuff. And they just burn through it. Like there was a joy of actually having to load this stuff. I hate it when it would buffer. I'll tell you that. That would kill me. Obviously I could tell you're a sports fan, but
Mhm.
would you say that growing up that you had at least a little taste for the spooky in terms of like what you like? Did you watch any certain films or?
You know what? I did.
Okay,
Like I always had that curiosity.
gotcha.
And then I remember being, man, how old was I? I had to be like 8 years old. And I slept over at my cousin's house. All my cousins were older. And
Gotcha.
they rented Night of the Living Dead in black and white.
Ooh, George Romero.
Oh,
He
my
started with the classics.
God. That was the scariest thing I had ever seen in my life. I couldn't sleep for days. Like I wanted to go home.
Nice.
Just
Is
the
it-
thought.
Is that the movie that we did the
Yeah.
special on?
Mm-hmm.
Throwback Thursday. It's not even Thursday, but whatever.
Oh my god.
Oh my
What'd you
gosh.
think of it?
I kind of thought it was corny. Like I thought it was corny because I was having an anxiety attack the whole movie just from a Kool-Aid jammer.
Mhm.
We're not gonna talk about it. So I kind of wasn't paying attention too much, but I really can appreciate that movie for the art of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I liked it for the art of it, if that makes sense.
When I first watched that film, like I've seen it multiple times.
I'm
It's
sure.
today. I'll say this: definitely, if you haven't watched it recently, watch it again because to watch it with a more adult like guys, essentially to have that sort
Mhm.
of like lens to watch it with, you definitely get to see one kind of the beauty of some of the photography for sure. there's iconic shots in that.
Sure.
But on top of it, just the storyline as well, just to see how raw of a story and how it was a breakthrough in terms of like the horror like genre in general. And no, I enjoyed every minute of it. And honestly, there's times where it's very campy, very kitschy,
Yeah.
and it's fun. That's the one thing I love about horror. It could be a lot of fun, you know.
Yeah. Well, I think for me, it was the idea of no way out, right? Like you're trapped, you know?
Yeah.
Like that's the part that I was like, ah. And then later on, when I got a little older, you know, watching, I started really liking the Alfred Hitchcock movies.
Gotcha.
But that was more of a psychological thing, right? I mean, there wasn't anything that was going to jump out at you. And then the movie, there was a couple movies, Exorcist, didn't scare me up until I saw the devil or whatever like turn into an old lady. You know,
Yeah.
she's like the mother of the priest or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh man, I felt my soul leave my body when I saw that. I was like, oh shit. So and then after that, I was just a nervous wreck. I don't like scary movies, to be honest. I get antsy. Like I start getting
Gotcha.
anxious. You know, The Shining. I don't like them, but here I'm watching all of them.
There you go.
The Shining. I didn't understand why I was so nervous the whole movie. Like my nerves were on edge, and then I came to realize that it was the music because they're violins the whole time. It's just and like your nerves are just, you don't even know why. You're waiting. You're almost wanting to get scared so you can release that, and it never happens, right? Like the whole movie, you're waiting for something crazy to happen, and it never happens. You know, so you're kind of left with this emotion, and you're like, how do I get rid of this?
Oh, see, that's the magic of the genre.
I don't like it.
So, what was Halloween like growing up, or what was your favorite fall memory?
Halloween. All right. So, my parents, awesome parents, by the way. I mean, they're awesome. They've been throwing a Halloween party. So my dad's gonna turn 70 this year. He's been throwing a Halloween party since like 82, every year.
Wow.
So as I was getting older, and I ended up buying a house out in Shorewood that had this unfinished basement. It was about 1,000 square feet. So we decided to move the party from their house over to my house. And there was always rules that were in place. You needed a costume. Didn't matter who you were. If you showed up to the house without a costume, my dad would not let you in. He didn't let his brother in. You know, he would have some costumes on the side in case they wanted to, you know, come in. But costumes were always required. So everyone kind of knew the rules. So when we got to my house, when we had more space, it grew. I think the biggest party we had, I probably fit about 90 people down there.
Wow.
We had 2 DJs. We had multiple bartenders. Like we turned that place into a club. And now, mind you, we're in Shorewood,
Yeah.
so it's super quiet. You know, people were coming from all over the city, and they started renting out all the hotels in the area just for this party. Like that's how big it got.
Wow.
I had Flipside, the DJ from B96. He came
Oh
out
my
and he spun
gosh.
ones because he was a friend of a friend. He's like, "Oh, I'm gonna have Flipside come." I'm like, "Yeah, right." And he showed up and he's spinning. I'm like, "Dude, I got Flipside at my party. This is incredible." So yeah, Halloween's huge. I love Halloween. It's my favorite holiday by far. Not because of the scary stuff, more because of the party.
Got you.
So, what was your favorite thing that you dressed up as?
I dressed up as Tigger.
Oh my gosh.
I was Tigger.
That's a first.
Yeah.
You heard it here, folks.
Did you make your own costume?
No, I actually went to a Disney store and they had the costumes or whatever, and we were gonna have a party outside, so it was a little chilly. So I was like, man, I'm gonna dress, you know, it was between Winnie the Pooh and Tigger, but my buddy dressed up as Winnie the Pooh, and I was Tigger.
That's it.
Yeah, so it was good. And then there was a period of time when some of my friends would dress up as women. You know, so one of my friends, short dude, kind of chubby, but he was hairy, like super hairy. And he's like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna dress up as a woman. I'm like, no, you're not. He goes, dude, let's go to the mall. And I thought we were gonna go to, you know, the Halloween Spirit or whatever. No, we ended up going to what was the name of that store?
Forever 21.
No,
It was like Forever 21.
Okay.
It was like Forever 21, but it was I forgot the name of it. It'll come to me. So we're sitting there, and I could not believe this guy was going to. Now, mind you, he was a game banger, right? Like this dude was a king.
Oh,
He's
okay.
sitting there, and
Nice.
he's trying on a skirt. He's doing all this other stuff, and he's like, how does this one look?" I'm like, "Dude, I don't know. Like, just pick out whatever you want." So, he had to. I can't believe I'm telling this story. So he ended up. We had to go get beer, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he forgot what he was wearing. So he forgot his wig. So he's got a cigarette. And he's walking, like tough, like you always walk. But he's got a skirt on and like a blouse. And then he walks into the liquor store, and then he comes running back. He goes, "Dude, I'm dressed like a woman." I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "You go get the beer." I'm like, "Well, everybody saw you already. What are you doing?" So it was a lot of fun. We had a lot of really good memories when it comes to Halloween.
Oh my god.
And we may be having a Halloween party here for people in the industry, for models and designers. And my dad has I don't even know how many, countless paintings for Halloween. So we're gonna have all his paintings here.
So, like, what kind of paintings has he done?
Man, from Freddy Krueger to Jason to the clown, It Clown. Or
Gotcha.
whatever.
Yeah, Pennywise. Yeah.
Pennywise. The girl from the Grudge.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
Forgot
got a
her
picture
name.
of her,
Yeah.
and he always sets them up because some of them are in black and white, so he'll set them up with black lights
Nice.
all around. Yeah, he always part of what makes a great Halloween party is the decorations, right? It's
Of
like
course.
having that feel. So between my mom and my dad, shout out to both of them. They spend days setting up for these parties.
Wow.
Literal days. Like they have years and years of Halloween memorabilia, so they set it all up. So I told them about it, and their eyes lit up. Like, oh yeah, we'll set it up. They love doing it. So we haven't finished the details to confirm the date, but I think we're on the verge of actually pulling the trigger.
Well,
I love it.
if you do, definitely, just so I could see this artwork, I'd
Oh,
love
absolutely.
to come by.
Oh, it's gonna be a blast.
Oh,
It's gonna be an absolute blast.
nice.
And that's one of the reasons why I'm cleaning the floor for this party.
There you go.
So,
Well, it's gonna get pretty dirty anyways. If you guys are dancing, you got DJs, so
Yeah.
expect to get the mop ready.
Well, I'll do the cleanup here. I don't want to do the cleanup after the.
This episode keeps getting spookier and spookier.
I know! I'm dead scared.
You mean dead scared entertainment.
Come on. Let's just tell the listeners they can have more fantastic fun after the show on deadscaredentertainment.com.
She's right. There you can find all our episodes of Verda Darano, drawing videos, and most importantly, our store.
We've got t-shirts, hoodies, and more.
It's a great way to show your spooky pride, as well as fund some frightening film projects.
It's like putting money back in your pocket. So don't forget them all. Head on over to
deadscaredentertainment.com. And now, back to Verda Darano.
That's it. I'm not sleeping tonight.
Everyone has fun Halloween memories. Everybody more or less talks about like the parties or the trick-or-treating and all that stuff.
Oh yeah.
But then they forget that there's also the side of things where it does get a little bit on the spooky end. And from what we hear, you've had some supernatural experiences that are worth talking about.
Yeah, man. I'm Mexican and Catholic, so we grew up with a lot of stories.
Ooh, you got the deadly duo right there.
Oh man, I was petrified because I remember my grandmother would always tell us stories about about Jesus or whatever, right?
Of course.
And if we misbehave, Jesus is gonna or God is gonna get mad at you. And if you're good, sometimes he'll appear. And I was like, I do not want this guy popping up when I'm going to the bathroom in the middle of that, So I was like petrified, sleeping over at my grandmother's house, going to the bathroom. I'm like, man, this guy's gonna appear. I've been good.
And you know God has the power to actually do that. So it's like even more like possible.
Yeah,
Don't. I get scared too.
right. It's like everybody wants to see this guy, but nobody wants to see this guy.
That is a great way to put it. I gotta say.
Oh, but so when we lived in Gage Park, we had an apartment upstairs that my dad ended up renting out to one of his coworkers. And we had a dog, a Dalmatian, that would dig up holes like all over the backyard, right?
Mhm.
So the guy upstairs, I think he was late on rent, and he told my dad, he goes, "Listen, I'll take care of your backyard." Right? So he did. He came out, he leveled it out, put new grass out. The grass looked great. And so I promised that to say, because that's when my parents say that stuff got weird around the house. So mind you, I'm 7, 8 years old, and one thing that I do remember was laying down, and my parents had gotten me this cross of Jesus on the cross, but it was made out of bamboo. So it didn't lay flat. It was like circular, like a cylinder on the back, and then the other piece was like on the front. So in order for you to put it up against the wall, you had to kind of like fix it so it didn't. I'm trying to explain this so people can visualize it. So it wouldn't lean to the left or the right. Right, you didn't want the edges to touch, so you kind of have to like set it up, right?
Yeah.
So I remember one day I was standing, I couldn't fall asleep, and I was looking at this cross, right? And then like it shifted to the left, like just boop.
Mm-hmm.
And then like, you know, as a 7-year-old, right? You're like, are you here? You know, if you're here, move to the right. And the damn thing moved to the right. I was like, huh. So then I just started asking questions as a 7 or 8-year-old would, you know, like, am I gonna have a good day? I don't even remember what the heck I was asking, but this thing was like moving, poof, poof. It was like answering questions, you know, until the point it was like 3-4 days went by, and every night I would ask questions. I wish I had better questions to ask. I wish but
For sure.
they were all little kid questions. Until one day I was like, look, I know you're busy. I'm not going to ask you any more questions. So thank you. And they like moved one more time and never moved again. You know? So fast forward years, right? I finally tell my parents the story. And my parents kind of look at each other and they're like, you know, what we ended up finding out, because after they fixed the grass, my dad said that he would hear people in the basement. You know, like that's where he would have his Halloween parties, right? But it would sound like there was people like drinking and like talking, and so they would go downstairs and everything was off, and it was like there was always like a lot of weird things going on in the house. It turned out that this guy, his family worked at a cemetery, so the dirt that he ended up filling up our backyard with was from the cemetery. So he leveled everything out with cemetery dirt, and yeah, I mean, if we now sit down and we start talking about some of the things that we'd experienced at that point. My mom, my dad, my uncles, like if people would come and visit us from Mexico, like they all would tell us like, oh, I thought you were in the kitchen. We heard the water running. Like, oh no, it was over here. You know, just stories like that where it's like at the time you don't really think about it, and then later on you're like, oh man, like there was some creepy stuff going on.
Oh my god, that's almost like on like a poltergeist level.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah, and you know the crazy thing is that I didn't think anything wrong with like the cross moving and like answering questions. I mean, because it would literally go from left to right. I didn't have to touch it. Like it was, you know, and I was laying in bed looking at this thing, and it was like on my right side, and I'm up against the wall. And you know, but because my mom and my grandmother were always telling me, you know, that he's good and this, that, and the other, I was like, well, you know, as long as he's not showing up, he can answer these questions for me, you know. I got concerns about my test tomorrow, you know.
There you go. These are the pressing questions.
These are the pressing questions of a 7 and 8 year old, you know. So, but yeah, I mean, after, you know, now that I got when I was older and I kind of understood, you know, I questioned myself. I'm like, man, did that really happen? But I remember days of maybe a week of me doing that. Like I ran out of questions to ask it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was actually pretty creepy. When my parents and I talk about it, it's just like, man, there was a lot of stuff going on in that house. Yeah, I mean, a lot of it had to do with people thought that like people were taking showers. Oh, I thought you were in the bathroom, or you would hear the water running, and then you go into the room and like, oh, it's off. Like, oh, I must be hearing things. Like things like that.
For sure.
Where it's like, oh, I thought you were in the kitchen and they were in the living room on the other side of the house. Who's in the kitchen? You hear, the forks hitting plates and the water running and the refrigerator door opening and cabinets opening, and then you go in there and there's nothing.
Wow.
But again, it wasn't until after we moved to our house in Cicero when we started talking about certain things, and you're like, wait, and you kind of start piecing things together. And ironically, my parents and my grandmother, or my parents and my sister, I should say, they ended up taking a trip to Orlando. I didn't go. I don't know why. I think it was for my sister's birthday or something. I don't know. I didn't end up going, but they came back and they all started telling similar stories of the hotel that they were in, of the same like experiences that they had in our old house. Like my dad said that he was, I mean, mind you, a regular hotel room, right? So you got your 2 beds and a bathroom. I mean, that's pretty much a hotel room.
Yeah.
And my dad says that, he was watching TV and he heard the shower going, and he thought my sister was taking a shower. And then my mom and my sister walked into the room. They were out shopping. And it's like, huh. And then it wasn't until they got home and they were all talking about it, and you start getting the goosebumps,
Yeah.
just thinking about like, oh man, isn't that what happened over in the house on Campbell? Like, that's right. And you start kind of piecing everything together. So
Sometimes those things follow you, though. They kind of latch on.
It's funny he brought up Orlando because that happened to me at Disney World. So I've had, I mean, again, this is our first encounter in general, but like I've had our house is very haunted, plain and simple. 1001 experiences, like either seeing actual physical manifestations, things moving, things falling, the whole 9, what you would expect like from a scary story.
Yeah.
But I remember in particular, this was last year. I went with my friends to Disney World to celebrate my other friend's wedding. 2 of my friends from high school got married, and sort of like the celebration afterward was all of us went to Disney World. So we ended up staying in the Port Orleans out. Now this is Disney resort territory. As far as I'm concerned, nothing malicious happened on the property. I try to look it up too. But I remember this was later on in the night. The newlywed couple was sleeping, and I remember they were just passed out, and my buddy was in, my best friend was in the shower. So nobody was essentially awake, or at least within distance that I can clearly hear a man's voice say my name, like my full name, Pierce Horvath. And I'm like, and it kept repeating it like multiple times. Mind you, this is about 2 o'clock in the morning, and we're supposed to go to get ready to hit the parks in the morning around 6. We're going to go for like rope drop. And it was clear as day, someone just saying my name, Pierce. And I'm like, more or less, I just realized, yeah, sometimes things do follow you.
Or maybe you're just nuts.
That too. I mean, it's probably a mixture of both. That's where the flavor of my life comes from. But essentially, I ended up doing some research and came to find out that a lot of like Disney properties considered haunted. So that's why when you said this, I'm like, makes sense.
yeah.
Makes sense. Maybe some people it just happens to be like once you're almost like tagged to some extent.
Yeah. I mean, the crazy thing is, I'm not a believer. I'm not.
Ooh.
So, I always try to justify, it was the wind, or it was this, or it was that. And there's certain things where, I mean, if I'm honest, there isn't any explanation.
Like what? I don't want to hear about.
Well, I mean, one that I was telling you before we started
that.
recording was my grandfather passed away a year before my son was born. And my son, when he was about 2.5, he started getting a lot. Well, he'd always get ear infections, so we had to put tubes in his ears. So because he really couldn't hear all that well, he didn't speak very well. So one day, he's in my bedroom because kids wake you up really freaking early in the morning. So we're playing in bed, and he looks over at my dresser, and I have a picture of my grandfather, and he stops like he recognized him, and we always called him Papa. My grandparents were Mama and Papa. So he looks and he's like, "Oh, Papa," without like it was clear as day, and then you're like, "What did you say?" He goes, "Papa," and he's like pointing, and I looked at his mom like, "What? How does he know? Like, did you tell him?" He goes, "No." We were both kind of like freaked out, like the heck. There's no explanation. Like he never met him, he didn't know anything about him, but he gave the picture a look of recognition, right? Like as a kid would be like, "Oh, I know him," He also had the uncanny ability of waking up in the middle of the night, and then he would just stand in the doorway, and you're in a dead sleep, and you kind of like wake up because you feel someone looking at you, and then you see this little silhouette, and you're like, "Oh my god, like, Mijo, are you okay? You want to come to bed?" And he's like, "Yeah." I was like, oh. I was like hoping he was just, like you don't want to hear like, "I'm coming for you," like, oh yeah. I was always glad that he went to his mom's side of the bed. I was like, oh my god. Yeah,
I used to do that with my parents till I was maybe 12 or 13. What am
Just
I
stand there.
You
saying?
were about 15.
I was about 18. I was about 25.
I still do it.
I still do.
Yeah, but he used to just stand there, and just he had his little hanky, little blankie, and his bottle. He would just stand there, and you just kind of like, "You okay? You all right?" Yeah. Yeah,
Wow.
there's so again, no explanations for a lot of that stuff, right? Like, but I always try to. So even in my house now, the person that lived there used to be. I live in Lyons. It used to be the mayor of Lyons, and she turned that whole town around. Like there was a lot. Hell's Angels was created there. So there was a lot of prostitution, and she went in there and cleaned up the whole town. So when I moved in the attic, I found a bunch of her stuff, old pictures. I found that, the wooden board that said attorney at law or whatever. Everyone has told me that, if you're not like on the corner of your eye, you always see like something moving, like, and you kind of look and I'm like, look, I'm not a believer. I tell everybody, I'm like, she's here. Like, there's definitely somebody here. I'm never home alone. So sometimes I'll just say out loud because it'll like I'll see her walking. Well, I don't know if it's her, but I'll see like a flash of white. When I'm watching TV in my room, like I'll see her kind of crossing, and I'll just say, I'm like, man, you gotta leave me alone tonight. Like I am not in the mood tonight, Or if when I first moved in, like I would roll up a joint, and I felt like somebody was like I started feeling guilty.
Yeah.
And I'm looking around like, hey, I'm gonna smoke this joint. So if you don't like it, you could leave. Like, who the hell am I talking to? So I don't know. I'm by myself, and I'm over here like, I'm not even paranoid yet. So, again, I promise saying that I don't believe, but it's always in the back of my mind. It's just the old traditions of whatever my parents were teaching me when I was little. It's like you just feel it sometimes. It's like there's a presence, and you're like, oh, I want to ignore this. Please leave me alone. Not today. Not today.
So, I mean, obviously, so we got your take on more or less the ghost side of things. We'll call it ghosts and spirits. But in terms of, let's just say, for example, like a lot of times, because we had a few encounters in terms of, or at least what we've heard of, do you believe in aliens?
Well, yeah. I mean, they're coming out saying that they're there, right? And I guess from a scientific standpoint, I mean, if I want to go there, someone kind of explained it, saying that if you grab a bucket of water from the ocean, are you able to tell that there's fish and like, and that's as much of this of space that we've been able to explore. Like there's a whole ocean worth of space out there, and we've only seen a bucket full. So there has to be. I mean, I'd be very human, like to be arrogant enough to say that we're the only ones around.
That's true. And I mean, again, I've heard like, we've had countless stories so far, just between like this last season, and even just talking among friends. They're out there somewhere, but again, I'm surprised. Usually, like we've had like people honestly on the like near the lake. We've had a lot. I've had experience like an extraterrestrial experience like on the lake. Just it looked like a huge neon green, like floating object that just hovered over the lake. Me and my buddy both were sober. Number one, we
Number
were
one,
sober.
that's always key.
Sober, and we were both looking at it at the same time. And as this was kind of going, we just noticed it just like hovered over the lake for a little bit and just like took off, like if it just was like almost like just like at a straight velocity, just going straight out east towards Michigan. So
Yeah.
I'm glad at least I'm glad you got that perspective, because we've had people that come on that are like essentially like, nope, none of it. Vampires, werewolves, like even like some people don't even believe in witchcraft, which is odd to believe even too, because sometimes what's your take on witchcraft? What do you believe in that?
Um, Brujerías.
See.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. Like I've gone to this is how Mexican I am. And that's when everybody goes, "How Mexican are you?" Right? They I was taken to what do they call 'em? Salvador. I don't know in Spanish. So like the guy who like who like if you're he's like a kind of a chiropractor at home. Like they'll give you massages, but he's like, "Oh no, your aura's off," and all of a sudden they're like rubbing an egg around you, and you're like, "What the hell?"
Oh, okay.
Yeah, those kind of people. So my parents, my mom, and my grandmother. My dad was never a part of this. This is all my mom and my grandmother's doing.
Okay.
When we went to Mexico, I was young, and they took me to, man, I haven't thought about this in forever. So they took me to this house, like just picture an old Mexican like box of a house with, I don't even know where it was, but yeah, this guy in front of me, or was it? No, it was an old lady. An old lady. She did the egg thing on me, because I think there was like a rumor saying that somebody had put some brujeria on us, or I don't know, something like that, right? So I just had to go. So they did the egg thing, and then this lady, she went into a trance in front of me and started like saying all these. And my Spanish at the time wasn't the best, so like there was a few things she said, and I was like, "What the hell is going on right now?" But she was like really close to me, and she was like talking, and then she would grab my face, and then she'd grab my hands, and going back and forth. And then I look over at my grandmother. My grandmother's praying. It was super weird, bro. So yeah, so I mean, I got to experience that. I don't know what she did. I don't know what the purpose of that was, but I went through it.
Oh my gosh. Nah, that's something else. I'll say, like, I've had friends of mine, like, they talk about like doing egg cleanses, just kind of like to like get some bad juju off of you, or like to kind of, to get into a sense of essentially whether you got somebody who's kind of like trying to put that negative vibe on you or not.
Right.
Because we have like, what we have is like in Romanes, it's called yakenda. It's like eye fall. So like the evil eye, essentially.
Okay, yeah.
So, and we do it like using bread. It's like rather than more or less we use like the way that the bread falls in a cup of water to see whether or not like evil's being like tossed your way.
Right.
But yeah, but the egg thing, that's a common practice even in Europe too.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised. But a trance?
Yeah, she went into a full trance, like her eyes flipped, and I was like looking at her like, is she real, or are we faking this, or what are we doing? Like, even me at that age, I was cynical, so I was like, do I have to roll my eyes too? Like, I didn't know what was going on. They just sent me, So yeah, there's stories for days, man. You guys got to get my grandmother on here. She'll give you
Ew.
stories for
Maybe
days.
so.
Honestly, that would be great. I'd be interested in that. I'll say this. That's the one cool thing about so far working with this podcast is that we not only is this obviously we're trying to like get some chills and thrills from this, but there's so much that we get from just like history, like just everyday history of like different cultures and just even if it's not even just like a particular like ethnic background, we just get even like Chicago history, Detroit history because
Yeah.
we're from Detroit, and just like even from stuff that was happening in Europe, like for like hundreds of years ago, we hear stuff about. So it's amazing. So I mean, if your grandmother would be interested in doing that, by all means, get in contact with us. We would love to hear these stories.
Yeah, no, she's a devout Catholic.
I like her already.
She's a big believer in the Virgin Mary. When my and the reason is uh, when my uncle was born, they told him he wasn't going to make it, right? So she prayed to her, and long story short, he survived. So part of the deal, I guess, is and they do this to this day. So whenever you're blessed with a miracle from the Virgin Mary in Mexico, they have, I think it's the largest church in the world actually, built for her, and people will literally walk on their knees for like miles to get there. And she wore black for like a year, and she did the crawl, and for her that was it was a miracle, right? And when he passed, not I don't even know how long ago it was now, 6-7 years ago. I mean, obviously she was hurt, but she felt like she was given, like 55 years of being with him. You know what I mean?
Of course.
So it's, I mean, those are the kind of things that give me goosebumps, right? Because, she's such a believer that she really looks at his life as a gift, right? So then my question is, why doesn't everybody? Like the percentage of us being born is like one in astronomical amount. Yet my uncle was looked at as a gift because he came close to death, and she looks at him like a miracle baby because of how much she was praying for him. So yeah, those are the kind of things that, like, when I sit down and talk to her, and I guess she gets a good thrill giving people the chills, because you're telling a story.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, that's awesome. That's a throwback to I think it was the first episode of last season with Felicia and Kevin Gabor.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had a similar story. I forgot what it was in particular, but it was definitely more or less on the side of like a miracle story. And that's something that is true. As much as we talk about like the scarier side of things, there's also that side of just like positivity and like miracles that happen, whether it be within our religion
Yeah.
or whether it be outside of that. And it's amazing to hear that stuff. Like that gives me chills too thinking about that. There's a lot more to this existence than we all know, and that's for sure. But we're just here enjoying the ride.
Yeah,
what I
that's all you
realize.
can do. That's why I don't try to figure it out, man. It's just, you know what? You just keep moving forward. I'm still breathing, and and I think this is gonna be like the 10th time I say it, but I'm not a believer, but I'll still say, hey, not today. Like
Yeah.
I'm busy, you know, just in case,
Just kind of make those boundaries
case.
clear.
Yeah.
Just because there's those times you're in for company. Sometimes you're just not feeling it.
So, Carlos, is there anything you have coming up soon, event wise, or something that you may be releasing or that you're working on that you kind of want to get the audience in on?
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to steal Ray's thunder, but he just opened up, and I say he because he's my business partner, so his successes are mine. But him and his group, the 1937 group, just opened up a dispensary out in Tilton, Illinois, which is right by Danville, about
Okay.
30 minutes away from Champaign. But it's literally like an adult amusement park. You got a dispensary on the side, and it's kind of built like a speakeasy where you have to push in a bookshelf to get into it.
Nice.
And then once you get it, you can go into a consumption lounge, and then next to it is a full sports bar and restaurant. And it's 21 and over, and they're gonna have space for bands, live music. Like it's a cool place to just go and like hang out. So that just opened up. We're gonna be going down there to hopefully document. They're painting a mural, so we have to head down there so we can work on doing that. October 7th, there's going to be a show in Milwaukee for with Wine Appetit with Brittany and her crew. On the 8th, we have the KVL Flower Ball at Cine City. So that's going to be a lot of fun for all those cannabis users out there. We're going to do a fashion show. We're going to have the cannabis event outside, and then we're moving in, and we're going to have a fashion show at Cine City. If I said that right. Yeah, and that's just around the corner. And then heading into October, I already mentioned hopefully we'll get that Halloween party up and running. And then we have some other shows that we're still kind of wrapping up all the details, but we have some stuff coming up for November and December as well.
I love it.
Oh, jam-packed and keep moving. That's how you get the creative juices and keep them flowing. That's the only way you could do it at this point.
Yeah.
But so if you would say, I'll say, because we spent a good chunk of this talking on the creative side, if you had like any maybe creative advice for those who are looking to get into photography or just in the creative space in general, any tips or advice you'd like to give our listeners? You have to be around creatives. You have to surround yourself with in the industry. So whether you're going to networking events or if you have an opportunity to go shoot something, even if it's for free, if you have friends that are interested in modeling, go out and shoot with them, practice, get your lighting right, create your own style. There's the proper way of taking a photograph, right? But that's boring. So learn the rules, learn the process, and then break all the rules. Go out there and be yourself. Sometimes we try to reach the standard that is really self-inflicted, right? So, sometimes you got to push the envelope and do the stuff that you like, and you're gonna find your audience. People are gonna like the fact that you're being original. So keep doing what you're doing. Keep pushing along. If you're going to be any type of creative, you have to already know that you are not going to be well off financially. You are going to struggle. But I don't make as much as I used to in corporate America, but I'm a million times happier doing what I'm doing than when I was there. And that's priceless. So keep grinding, keep pushing, and as corny as it is, when they say that you're doing what you love, you don't work a day in your life. It's absolutely true. So just put yourself in the situation. Surround yourself with creatives, because that's, as a creative, if you start, if you're not around it, you lose it. You truly lose it. Right. And then all of a sudden you'll start talking to someone and those juices start flowing again. And you're like, I want to do this, And so that's one of the reasons why we always have an open door policy. Or like we have people coming in to work all the time.
Another thank you to Carlos of Done by Design for hosting and joining us on our journey into the macabre. We hope to have you accompany us again. And as always, Gia kor mangav tuke baktalotrom. Preko tunyaripen. Till then, I wish you safe travels through the darkness.
broadcast of Verda Darano was brought to you by the talents of Pearson Raquel Horvath, creators of Dead Scared Entertainment, with the help of Pirosh Garaj. You've been listening to a production from Dead Scared Entertainment, where terror is our tradition. Good night.